All right, this is Jonathan Abidua here with the Danville Bicentennial Project. I am here with Miss Carolyn Apple. It is March 23rd, 2024. Sorry, May 23rd. Um, so first, just for the record, can you state your name and your age?
I'm Carolyn Apple, 89 years old.
All right. And do I have permission to record this interview?
Yes.
I know it seems silly to ask, but here we are. So, where and when were you born?
I was born here in Danville, 302 West Clinton Street, born at home, February 24th, 1935.
1935. Okay. And so, the town has obviously changed a lot since
Yes.
then. Can you describe the town as you remember it when you were young?
We lived like 3 blocks from downtown. My parents did not have a car. My father was a trucker for farmers, so I only had a truck for transportation. So we did a lot of walking. I could walk down to the square. I could go to the dime store, grocery store, drugstore, little restaurant, any place I wanted to go. I could walk to all the neighbors, my friends. We would catch the bus down on the square and take it to Indianapolis for shopping. So life was easy.
Life was easy. That's good to hear. What about the surrounding area? What did that kind of look like at the time?
Well, outside the town, it was all farmland. My father hauled animals to the stockyard or hay or whatever farmers needed. So that was his business, and we rode the bus. I had to walk to school, but a lot of my friends rode the bus. You had to live, I think, more than a mile out of town to ride the school bus. So I walked home for lunch, and I would call my friend. We would meet at the corner and walk together back and forth to school. I don't know about the surrounding area.
No, that's all good.
I was a city girl.
And so you mentioned the school. I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. What school was it at the time?
Just the Danville High School, all 12 grades. While I was there, they did add on one wing. The first 8 grades, or first, I don't know if it was eighth through the 8th or 9th grade, we were on the first floor. And then the second floor was more the junior and senior classes.
All right. And so I know this is a broad question, so interpret it how you will. What was it like growing up here at the time?
My friends, uh, the neighborhood, we had a lot of children to play with. Carefree. We'd stay out till dark, and our mother'd call us home for bed. Played a lot of barefoot. Played all ages of the neighbors played together. Hide and seek. King of the mountain. There was a small hill in front of our house, and you could roller skate or sled in the winter. It was a small hill, but not much traffic. So we could run about the neighborhood.
All right. That sounds idyllic. It sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so y'all played a lot, and you mentioned going shopping in Indy. Um, what else did y'all do for fun around here? What was there to do around here? Or
Well, we went to church every Sunday. Uh, as as I got older, there was more activities for the young people. Sunday evening, uh, some get-togethers. The Girl Scouts at that time met at the church. As a family, my parents had friends in Plainfield and Clayton. Sometimes we'd go to friends on Sunday afternoon, and some at one home we made homemade ice cream, and they had a large front lawn. Could play croquet. So I was the youngest of my family, so my mother took me. Maybe she went to a meeting and no babysitters or anything, so I went with her a lot. So I learned to sit and be quiet.
you mentioned that there was church on Sunday and that the Girl Scouts would meet there. Do you remember what church it was?
Yeah, Danville Christian. I was married there.
Danville Christian. All right, because there's a lot of churches around here. Um, so
And I was at the church before the tornado when it still had the stained glass dome.
there was a stained glass dome. Can you tell
Mhm.
me a bit about that? What did it look like?
Well, it was over the sanctuary, and it was blown off, I guess, during the tornado and replaced with just a simple, uh, what would you call it? Just drywall type. Still a dome,
Mm-hmm.
but not the stained glass one.
All right.
Church also, it was different. The baptistry was on the side of the front, and on the other side they had wooden slat doors that would pull down, and a class called 20th Century class met in that area. And then, like for Easter and Christmas, they could open those doors and make more room for sanctuary sitting.
Makes sense.
We had a lot of activities in the church basement, dinners, socials. I remember they had once a year they had a birthday dinner, and each table might be decorated for a different month, so you could sit where your birthday month was. I also remember as a small child they had tables with sand. You little kids could stand and play in the sand during Sunday school as an activity. Of course, they still had the organ with the big pipes behind. I've attended several weddings there, including my own. I remember sitting in church by my mother, and of course there wasn't anything for me to do basically except sit there. So I would take the songbook and a piece of paper and a pencil, and when you take the pencil across the paper, it leaves an indent from the book. I remember doing that during church. Probably took some naps.
Would you?
So we had a lot of church activities.
All right. Would you say the church has changed a lot in the uh, since then?
Well, I left when we got married.
All right.
So, yes.
All right. So, can you tell me about any of the local landmarks, whether in town or wherever, and your experience with them, maybe?
Well, we lived almost diagonal across from the standpipe.
Standpipe. What is that?
It's like a metal water tower.
All right. Is
and,
it?
And the town would have, there was a small building there that became the town. For a while it was the town hall. Also it was the fire station. But before that, it must have just been town office or something, because they had piles of sand and gravel on the grounds close to the standpipe. And a neighbor boy and I, we liked to climb those. Well, they got after us. They didn't want us climbing on those. And so that was the major landmark that I recall. Oh, there was the sale barn. Uh,
And what was that?
Pardon?
And what was that?
They auctioned, well, they auctioned animals there.
Oh, really?
And I remember walking by there, and of course the smell of the feces and stuff, it was pretty bad. And an auctioneer there, John Schaffner, my dad, I guess, took some animals there for the auction and all. And John Schaffner, the auctioneer, asked my dad if he'd like to rent a house he had. He had built it for his mother. I don't know if she ever lived there or not, but we moved into that house, lived there. My mother lived there for over 50 years. When both of the Schaffners died, they willed it to my family. So we ended up being owners of that house that we'd rented for years. They lived down the street from us, and I would take I don't know, probably weekly. Sometimes I would take the money down to Mrs. Schaffner to pay the rent. The house was unique. I guess this Mr. Schaffner's mother had a fear of being locked in, so every room had an outside door. So one bedroom had it had a door to the outside, it had a door to the pantry, it had a door to the kitchen, it had a door to the bathroom, it had a door to a closet. 5 doors.
That's interesting. That's
In the summer, a lot of times we'd leave the doors and windows up open, had screen door at the front, and maybe just a little latch. Never locked anything. The windows were pretty low, so got pretty good breeze. There was a half basement with a coal furnace. So in the winter, before my father would get down there and stoke it and all, the house would get pretty cool. Also, my mother had her washing machine in the basement, so she had to carry clothes up and down. In the summer, we'd hang them out on our clothesline, and she had the old wringer. She could heat the water down there. I'd go down and sit on a little step just for something to do. And you might see a mouse down then. There was a trap door over the stairs to the basement, and you had to pull it up. It was wooden, and it was held by a chain and weights. So around it was sort of like a little closet area off of the kitchen, but you had to open up the trap door to get to the basement. There was a back porch. We had ice box on the back porch, and Father just drilled a hole in the floor for the water to drain out underneath. Of course, the kitchen changed a lot. It finally closed off a couple of those doors to make room for cabinets and a sink. Originally, my mother had a Hoosier cabinet, and I remember it had a pull-out breadboard, and she could roll out pie crust and stuff on that breadboard. One room was a dining room, and when I got to be probably 10 or 12, they turned it into a bedroom for me. We only had 3 bedrooms. I had 2 older sisters and an older brother. One sister was about 13 years older. The other sister was 10 years older. My brother was 3 years older. So when the girls were gone, my brother took the 1 bedroom and they made the dining room into a bedroom for me. I remember my mother was a den mother for Cub Scouts. I remember the boys sitting on the floor carving ivory soap as a project. I don't know. I suppose they were to carve a truck or something out of the soap. I remember playing pickup sticks on the floor. There wasn't a lot of room. I have a desk. I remember sitting at this desk coloring as a child, and through the years it got delegated to the basement. My husband and I retrieved it, refinished it. It was made by my uncle, my mother's brother, Fred, for her 16th birthday. They were in an Oddfellows home in Greensburg, Indiana. So he made that in their shop class, solid oak. So it's a treasure I still have that he made. I enjoyed school. I still have a friend from the 6th grade that I'm friends with. Her first day to come to school, the teacher had her sit with me, and she only lived a few blocks away, so we became friends, and are still friends. Oh, I lived in the jailhouse. My father became deputy sheriff and then sheriff. And I think it was 2-year terms, but he got 4 years as sheriff. And the term was from January to January. So the middle of my sophomore year, we moved into the jailhouse. And I graduated from, it was close to the school. So I lived in the jailhouse, which is now the Historical Museum.
So I worked in there for a little bit. What was it like living in there when it was still like an active jail?
Yeah, but and then, well, I remember the state police bringing people in, but usually they were short term.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if like a town drunk, they'd just let him go the next morning. Uh, it was never homey to me. We had babysat at the jail while Sheriff Leon Bayless and his wife might go out for the evening or afternoon or something, and we'd go and stay there while they were gone. So we were acquainted with things. When we moved in, of course, we brought our own furniture, and there were 3 bedrooms upstairs, and I had one. It was like I didn't pay a lot of attention to what was going on as far as the jail part. And my father wanted me out of sight. He didn't want me where prisoners all could see me. But my mother had to feed him 35 cents a day for a meal. Uh, the longest person that I know was there. He was charged with rape, and that's all I remember. But he was there. Seemed like a pretty long time. I've learned there was an escape. I don't know if it was the day we moved in or the next day. Somebody was able to saw a bar and got out. Even there, we locked the front door and the jail entrance, so they had to buzz to get into the jail entrance. And my parents' bedroom was on the main floor, and there was a buzzer just outside their room in the hallway. Someone would buzz at the entrance, and they'd have to go let them in. It was the jail. The jail itself. That area it was cold and had an odor to it. Not a place you would like to stay. So when my father finished as sheriff, he went to work for a farm. They assembled farm equipment, and it was just down the street from us. He could walk to work. He said he was glad to be back amongst his people. He still had the farmer in him. He died, he was only 69. And then I'm not sure how soon after, maybe a couple of years, my mother was the radio operator in the the fountain building at the corner of the square. They enclosed it, made a little office in there, and she ran the police radio. She'd go to work at, I think, 4 to 11, 3 to 11 or something like that.
That's really
My last name was Money.
that's that's really cool. I wasn't aware that they had a little thing.
It was
there.
an outdoor fountain. It had a little roof over it, open sides. Then they enclosed it, and now it's all gone. Oh, the other thing was I was in the band from the 4th grade till I graduated. I had a neighbor girl that played, it was called E-flat clarinet. And I had regular clarinet, and she taught me how to play it. So there were about 4 or 5 of us, got into the band in 4th grade. And our teacher wasn't happy when we had to leave class and go to band practice. Donnie Miller was the drummer, bass drummer. And he was a 4th grade boy. He wasn't very big. I think they had him stand on a stool. But he played that bass drum all through high school.
So
I enjoyed the band. We would practice marching just out on the streets close to the school building there, and had competition and concerts. It was enjoyable events.
could you tell me a bit about y'all's band competitions? What was that like?
Well, they were judged. Let's see what I can remember. I don't know, there was marching contests and playing contests. I don't remember where we went or how it was conducted, but I got a lot of ribbons.
I'd imagine playing since 4th grade.
Yeah. Mr. Skidmore was the band director, and he liked the old Sousa marches, so we played a lot of the Sousa marches type music. And then I don't know if he had been the music man for Central Normal College.
Oh, really?
And then he transitioned to the school, I suppose when the college closed. He came to the school, and we all liked him. So when he left, a younger man came, and he had us playing different music, more up to date. It was a transition. I was probably a junior by then, but I know for individual competition, like I would play a clarinet solo. We'd go to Butler University, and we had to have an accompanist. So someone would play the piano, and I'd play my solo, and there were judges in the room. I was trying to think. Several of us did that. We'd go up to Butler for that. And I'm not sure we had to have a accompanist. I think we just played on our own. No music, just by memory, play a tune of our choice. I know one time we took the bus, the band took the bus to Cincinnati. I think it was just an outing, but on the bus it was fun because we sang little silly songs and all. That was a big deal. Going to Cincinnati on the bus. I'll probably think of more things later.
That's perfectly fine. Um, so I'll shift gears real quick and then ask you, um, can you describe like a celebration that Danville held or would have?
Well, the circus on the square. Originally, I think it took up all four sides, and then it was three sides. The other thing, we had band concerts out on the lawn of the courthouse every Friday night, and one of the Bolton boys had a popcorn machine, and that was very popular. We just had folding chairs to sit on, but a lot of the farm people came to town on Friday nights. That was a pretty big event. The circus, I know they had the greased pole.
What was that like?
These boys tried to climb up a pole that had been greased. Of course, all the rides. I think it would be up there at least 3 days, I believe. Missed it when it was gone. I don't remember what it cost or anything. The other thing was Christmas Eve. The high school choir had white robes, and we'd have lit candles. We'd go in the courthouse rotunda, curl up the stairs. We'd have probably all three levels with carolers in their white robes and candles and sing Christmas carols. And then for treat, I think it was the American Legion, we'd get a little sack of candy and an orange. Oh, the other big event was the Halloween program at the high school. Took up the whole school. They'd have costume judging in the gym, and you'd make a parade, I guess you'd call it, in your costume. I don't know who judged it, but one year a neighbor boy and I won a prize as, I think we were an old couple. But another time, my mother made me, out of crepe paper, sewed onto cotton material, little Bo Peep. And I'm not sure if I won any prize with that or not, but it was always a big event. We looked forward to the Halloween down there. And then they'd have the cakewalk and the fishing pond. They'd just hang a sheet or something and give you a pole with a string and a hook. You throw it over and they'd put a prize on there for you. And I don't know if they called it minstrel. In one of the bigger rooms, I know one year they did songs from I'm gonna wash that man right out of my hair. Can't think of the name of the play.
Was it South Pacific?
Yeah,
Right.
music from South Pacific. So there were some talented people around, have rehearsals. I think it was just a one night, but it was, everybody came. Later, I think they had a meal. I'm not sure how that worked. When I first started school, they didn't have a cafeteria. The city people walked home for lunch, and the bus people brought lunch buckets, brought their lunch. And sometimes I would envy the people having their lunches where I had to walk home. Just walk home and have a couple bites and back, I think. Didn't eat much anyway. We sat on the bleachers. At one time, we got milk and crackers provided by the government. We got a morning snack of milk and crackers. And I remember rationing butter and eggs, and I think those were the main things. Sugar. So during the rationing period, the sister Florence, that was 10 years older than I was, she was getting married. And we had a friend that made wedding cakes. So she saved up her coupons and all and was able to make a nice wedding cake for my sister's wedding. And then there was the green stamps.
What were those?
I forget how you got them, but you had books. You stick the green stamps in there, and when you got a book full, you could redeem it for some prize. The more books you had, the better the prize. S&H green stamps, I think they were called. I remember the college. Well, I went to kindergarten. It was probably one of the students came up our street. She'd put a rope around us and we'd walk together down to kindergarten. And it was several blocks down there. I remember we had to have our own rug to put on the floor to take a nap. It must have just been a half-day kindergarten because there was no meal. And there wasn't any playground. There was an area outside the building that it was basically a cinder floor. We maybe played out there some. And the kindergarten had a little band, rhythm band they called it, with triangles and a thing you hit on your hand. It had little round metal discs, made a noise. I think maybe some sticks. Anyway, we had a little rhythm band, and we had little capes and like a soldier's hat. And I was the leader of the band. I have pictures.
Seems like you were always musically gifted, huh?
Somewhat, yeah. So the college also, they didn't have dorms, and we had a lady stay with us while she was a student, and she became a lifelong friend. Her name was Edith Call, Kahl. She went on to be a school teacher. And during this summer, when she'd be home, or after she graduated, maybe. Anyway, she slept at our house. She became like almost an older sister. And after she got a job, she liked to come back up to Indianapolis shopping, and she would come out to our house and bring my mother a box of turtles, the candy. And if she came in the night, she'd just come in the house and get on the couch and sleep. She ended up in New Albany, Indiana, and I know we went down there and visited her a couple times. But she was a student and she lived with us. The tornado passed over our house. It blew out a window in my brother's bedroom, and he was big into making model airplanes, the balsam wood, cut them out and glue them together. He had several hanging from the ceiling on strings, and that window broke, took all his planes were gone. So my father was deputy at that time, and I was at a neighbor's, a friend of mine, at her house, and I know my father walked down there to be sure we were okay. So I stayed with my girlfriend for another day or so before I went home. And we were at her house, and we heard the roar of the train, like a train. And we looked out the window and we could see dark clouds. It looked like trees bending over. So we just stood there during the storm. But her house didn't get any damage. The house behind us lost its roof. And one house down the street was a 2-story house. It took the roof off, or it took the first story off. And of course the church damage. I remember all the people coming to look after the storm, looking at the damage and all. Of course, Coatesville was worse. But that was an exciting time.
How did the town respond to that, to the damage?
Well, mostly it's what I've read. I think the Red Cross came in, and I don't really know. My father was busy. I don't remember how we got the window repaired. I was not involved with any of the rescue efforts or rebuilding. Although I think I did take a tin can, one of the bigger coffee cans, metal, went down to 39 and stood there taking donations. They had volunteers taking donations from people driving through. Also, after that storm, I went down the street and I gathered up a bunch of playing cards. I collected the playing cards for the backs, the pictures on the back of the cards, and I accumulated probably a couple dozen or more cards with pretty backs on them, and I mounted 2 black boards with these cards as decoration. And I always liked, I thought it was pretty as a picture. Just the cards were out in the street and on the lawn and stuff, they'd just blown around. But I found so many different ones.
So, could you tell me any urban legends or folklore concerning the town?
Don't think so.
It's all good then. So, we're reaching the end of my questions. I do have one last one I would like to ask. Obviously, the town has changed a lot um, over the last 200 years or so. Um, so, how would you like to see Danville change in the future, in the next 200 years or so?
At one time, I thought some of the above the businesses on the square, if they could make senior citizens apartments on close to the square where people could walk, and they'd be able to walk around the square, go to the movie. They have that the gym now on the square, plus the athletic club in the old high school gymnasium building. But I thought it would be a nice place for seniors to live. See, I had some building in mind. But maybe just a block or two off the square if they had housing for seniors.
I think that would be an awesome idea. All right, then. I think that's uh, the end of my questions. Do you have anything else you kind of want to mention or share?
We had a large garden, and there was an empty lot between us and a neighbor, which the neighbor owned, and he had a bigger garden. But it was big enough. We had corn and strawberries. I know I sold strawberries, I think, for 25 cents a quart. Of course, I had to pick them. And then that lot that was a garden, he ended up building a little house there for a daughter that was getting married. So it took away that open space next to us. The same neighbor had a fish pond in their backyard, and they had chickens. They had a chicken house back there. But they didn't want us to mess around the pool. She was always afraid we'd fall in or something. They had two foster daughters, so I was at their house a lot. But she was always very cautious for us to stay away from that fish pond. They actually had fish in it, goldfish. When we would go someplace on a Sunday afternoon, my father would just clean the truck. It also had racks that were removable. He would clean the bed of the truck and we'd sit up next to the cab. And he was very cautious that we sat, not stand around or anything. But a few places we went like that. And then later, my brother and I would go with him of an evening, and my mother with the animals. It was best to take them of an evening when it was cool, especially pigs. So that was an outing for my brother and I. He could sit on the seat and I sat on my mother's lap, and we'd go to the stockyard in Indianapolis. I guess that was after the sale barn closed in town there. The sale barn was the original old high school. The park was a big deal. We had some family reunions there. It was always a great place to go. The swinging bridge. And there was a hill over where the shelter house is on that side of the pond and all. We'd climb up that hill and slide down. But folks from Indianapolis a lot would come out, picnic there. I even remember the college having a May Day maypole. Was toward the front of the park lawn, toward the road. There was a big grassy area up there, and they did a maypole. The girls in flowery dresses, and they had the ribbons that they go in and out, twist for a maypole. I was pretty young, I know.
All right. Thank you for sharing with us.